I hope you're not just reading out the contents of the prayer, but I hope you look into the contents of the prayer, and that makes you shed tears and also have change of heart. The prayer, as I say often, the prayer is something that is done in order to change your heart and to remove the darkness in your heart and to change your heart into something that is compassionate and also bright. We call that a religion. Because Westerners keep commenting on religion from the perspective of Westerners, and they think it is a link between the God and also the human. But when we say religion for the Westerners, if you look at it from the perspective of Westerners, it looks like Confucianism and also Taoism and also Buddhism does not seem to be a religion. It is only so from their own perspective. But in Buddhism, the religion is, when you say Zhong, it is essential teaching. And even in Yosu, we say Mare Mountain. It was not actually Mare Mountain, but it was actually Mount Maru. As we say San Maru in Korean, it means the peak of the mountain. And also, if we ask what essential teaching of what, that means it means the essential teaching of removing oneself from the suffering and also agony. It is not something that is a link between a God and also human, but also the religion that we talk about here is diverse actions of ourselves in order to remove ourselves from suffering. So normally when you pray and also when you meditate, you tend to pray that you tend to imagine that yourself out of suffering, and in the process you should also pray that you will try to remove others also from suffering. If two things are not happening at the same time, then it is a lie. Why is it a lie? The palm of your hand and the back of your hand, they always go together. If you put out your palm, then the back of your hand also follows. The two of them can never be separated. So the saying that without the feelings for other sentient beings, but if you're praying, that is also a lie. So the word compassion and also the word selflessness, they are always coming together. So it is also a lie that selflessness comes after compassion, or the compassion comes after selflessness. Your wish for yourself also comes together with the wish for other beings. So when you're praying for yourself and when you're praying for others, they come separated to you, but the thought for the happiness and also the action for happiness should also make you happy. If two of them happen together, and when you say simultaneously, it may seem like there are two different things existing, but you should think in depth, but you should not discriminate between the compassion and selflessness. And if you do so, then your practice will not happen in a good way. Whatever you're hoping for yourself, you're hoping also for other sentient beings. You're becoming a mayor in order to make all citizens of Yasu happy. You're not becoming a mayor of the city in order to make yourself happy. If you do so, then you will not be selected. So how much of selflessness do you possess? Depending on that, your happiness will also follow. And that is a teaching of Mahayana. And so normally from time to time when you pray, you should also think in depth for the contents of the prayer, and you should also experiment on them. And I think it's better to read after observing the contents once than reading it 1,000 times or to 10,000 times. So the mantra that you're reciting and praying, if you do not know the meaning of it, then I think it is not as helpful as it is. But it is more important to know the contents of the mantra that you're reciting. It comes in the first part of the prayer. Kamla Shila said all sentient beings are the same. When we say the same, because Kamla Shila said it's the same, if you ask the question, are the gods and human beings the same? Those people who just read out of context, it's not the same if you look at it from the law of discrimination. The rich and the poor, they are different. The rich, they have made a lot of good virtues before, and the poor, they have not made so much good virtues. So there's a difference there's a difference in the karma. But we do not say everyone or everything is the same. So even when you're looking at each character, you should also have the sense of discrimination. And if you do not have the sense of discrimination and equanimity, then you will not be able to read it properly. You can interpret this in the mundane part or even in the final part. The equanimity of the essential beings in the mundane part is for those your friend or for your foe. So it is not something that you can avoid. But in the finality part, if you concentrate on the object and if you practice, then you can react to the obsession and also anger that arises due to your inappropriate understanding of the reality of the existence. What is this? So if you look at it mundane part, then it is very difficult to say it is the same. There's a difference in the gender, and there's also difference in the poverty, and there's a difference in the black and white, and there's also difference in so many different conditions. In the mundane world, a lot of people, they argue and they fight in the sense of equanimity and also discrimination. And whatever it is, in the mundane world, those people with a lot of money, they live together with those who has money, but they are not able to live with those who doesn't have money. And those who are poor, they argue that those rich people, they have taken all the money and they fight. So they always discriminate based on the quarrel, and that is even so that when you're treating those kids that are born from same stomach. So although we say it is the same, it is different. So maybe for your first son, you react better. And once I saw a grandmother, when she sees the first son, then she sheds her tear. But when she sees the third son, then she doesn't react. And so it is all different. So when we look at it in the mundane part, then although we say it is the same, it is very difficult to explain that it is the same. However, but when you look at it in the final part, then whether it is a rich or whether it is a poor, or whether it is the old or whether it's young or whether it's women or men, is not different. Just because you're a woman, you never die twice. It's the same that you die once, and it's the same that we have no spare life. And it is also the same that we go through the same samsara. Maybe it is a little different, that we go through different suffering, but maybe it is the same. Some people, they are picked by tone, but they argue that uh, even if I met against a turn, then I tolerate it. But some people they do not even take it seriously. That even if they were shot by an arrow, then they had to take it out nearest to their bones. But some people, even if it is a small scratch, they react in a very severe way, and they argue whether they have to go to the hospital or not. But even that, so just because you have been picked by a thorn doesn't mean that the pain is less. So maybe in your heart, due to the stress when you're young, those who had a lot of uh, a lot of scratches in your heart, then even if we just poke you a little, then you feel a great suffering. So even when you talk about those the conditions of the yasu or the happening that happened in yasu, those people who are related at the time, they're still alive. Uh, about 100 people died, and there are still families who had been murdered in a brutal way, and even the citizens, even those who doesn't have any relation, they participate, and they said the whole of Yasu is a rebel. So they came and they tried to remove everyone who belonged to Yasu, and they just killed them. So amongst the 30,000 people of Yasu, about 7,000 people died. So although we say that you're not connected, whether it is whether it's a rightist or leftist, when you talk about it, then your heart skips a beat, and it's just like to the wound you put salt or pepper. Even the Gwangju Democratic Movement, officially about 158 people died and more than 1,000 people got wounded. But when I saw the comparison that they compared the dead people to the ray fish that were caught in Huksan Island, I don't understand how those people can survive. Like they're worse than animal. So even if we were the rebels, even if we give the condition that we were the rebels, they have no sense of pity for the lost soul, but instead they commented that they deserve the death. I don't understand, or I don't know, or I can't get it. Where's a life that is worth that? So if you look at it, the equanimity of death, and also in the sense of samsara, there is suffering whether you have money or you have less money. The suffering of human world. It may be so that it may differ depending on the amount of money, but even those I even met those people who had a lot of money, but those people who has a lot of money, they go through great suffering too. And so please don't say that because you have less money you go through suffering. That is all an excuse. You're just giving excuse in an outer wall that you feel the great suffering because of money. So do not just give comparison of your life's worth depending on the money. I'm a little sorry to say, but the head of the Samsung Corporation, Mr. Connie Lee, although he has a lot of money, he suffered from heart attack, and imagine how much stress he had. So maybe I think it's better to live up to 108 years without money and without stress. The grandmother in White Lotus, she was about 100 years old, and she was like, did you come? And when I asked, do you know me? She said, oh, aren't you the Venerable Jinok from Sakcha Monastery? She eats well, and although she's not able to stand up, she greets me. And how good is that? Her daughter is about 80 years old. Even her daughter is 80 years old. Her back is very straight, and they lived for a long time. This family. She has never tried to become a president, and she never had a big greed, and she was very content for having 3 meals a day. And if she was eating a very uh, a very common meal, that she was very happy just eating some sauce and rice. But she didn't have so much greed. But some people, they wonder, where should I go and borrow 10 million, and where shall I borrow $10 from my neighborhood? What do you think? Is it easier to borrow $10 from your neighborhood or 10 million from England? It is nothing. So when you look at your opponent, then maybe whatever the opponent has looks greater. So when you're hungry, if you look at it, then it seems like your sister or your younger brother's food is more. But when you change it, then there's not much difference. There is just a misunderstanding or misinterpretation from your hunger. That is the same from in terms of money. Do you know who are those that rich people are very envious of? They're very envious of beggars. They they think that they wish to just sit on the street and rest for a while. The compromise version of the rich and the beggar is the monks. How did they compromise? They lived like beggars, but hurt like the rich. In the heart, you can think that all money of Yasu is my money. So if you see others spending money, then you can just think that the person is spending money on your behalf. So because the monks are compromised version of the rich and the beggar, you can also sit on the street and you can also sit on the street. When I was sitting on the street, everyone who were passing by, no one commented, but they were just giving me space, thinking that I was meditating. So, and even the monks, when they go and sleep in the house of the beggars, even the clothes fits well. This cloth is very weird, but it fits into different occasions. You can go to funeral and also recite mantras, but after that, you can also go to wedding directly. It fits here and also there. It fits everywhere. So I think this wardrobe is very nice. Before, when I was in Seoul, when I was in Yonghwa Monastery, I went to Walker Hill Hotel, and the security, he didn't allow me to go in. He said this place is only for those who wear suits and formal shoes. And so I told him this rubber shoe is the formal shoe of monks. And then he asked, is that so? And he asked, "Don't you have any other shoes?" And I told him, "We have shoes made of straws, but we don't wear them anymore." And so, in case if you go somewhere, if you want to buy some formal shoes for monks, just go to any shoe store and ask them to give them formal shoes for monk, and he will give you the rubber shoe. And when he insisted that this place is only for people wearing formal shoes, I said that's fine, and I went in. And so monks, when they leave, they should live an exceptional life. No matter how much people try to earn money, you should be exceptional. You should not try to earn money. You should just stand aside. Although people living in this world, if you look at them closely, if they don't buy a good car, then they feel ashamed and they are not able to do their business well. And so they tend to buy a big and luxurious cars, and so even if their legs are short, they try to pull the chair to the very front and they try to drive, but still they're not able to reach the pedal. And so since they sit in this posture, you're not able to see the person inside very well. And also, monks, they should not compete against having a good car. The best car is just rain. And the next best car is the bus, and taxi follows. If you do that, then that should be more than enough. And if someone gives you a ride, you can sit with them. And if they don't give you a ride, then that's fine. You should live life in that way, or else how can you live? There are many different ways to control the manner of the behavior of your heart. If you do not practice, then your heart does not get trained. What we say in Korean Buddhism, we say it's fine, everything is enough if you just gain enlightenment from the heart. I wonder how we can attain enlightenment of the heart all of a sudden. But here, what we're saying is, finally, it's the heart of us. You have to change them. Practice means to change the heart. And the change does not happen in an instant. No matter what a good driver you are, you're not able to turn in 180 degrees in all of a sudden. There is a circle that you have to turn around. And even when you're bending something, just because you bent it once doesn't mean you can bend it in an instant, because there's flexibility, especially like bamboo. You have to hold them because of the flexibility. So the thing called habit, we call it a habit. We call this a habit when something that happens or that's been repeated and became an inevitable instance. We call that a habit. And we call that karma too. So due to the habitual action, if it progresses, and if the habitual action becomes stronger, and if it strengthens, then when you try to stop it, the power to stop it, you need more power to stop it as much as in comparison to the habitual action that you have done repeatedly. It's same as when you put a brake when you're running. If you're running at a higher speed, then you need to have a stronger power for the brakes. So it is not fine if you just press it. So when you are running or when you're racing strongly, then you need stronger power to stand against it. So it's the same. If you've been smoking for 40 years, if you try to stop it in 10 days, then it is very difficult. And if the habit has been continuous for 40 years, then no matter how much is it for your health, the condition should be given so that you will be able to stop. Same as the brake. You should be able to come to the stage where all parts of your body are shivering in order to stop. Even with the makeup, some told me, whenever next life I should be reborn as a man because of the makeup. But I told that person, I'm sure that because of your habitual action of applying makeup, even if you're reborn next life as a man, you will still be wearing makeup. When I saw TV, I saw on the TV that although he had a wife and he was going around with some other women, and I was thinking if he's crazy, but he wasn't. And when we tried to have a closer look, it's just that he was a female before in his previous life. And if you look at it, he wears all the colorful clothes like red and also the lipstick. They were wearing very red, very strong lipstick, and even the hair. And so he was wearing a skirt and he was wearing a high heel and he was cutting the woods, but he was able to cut the woods very well because of the habitual action. It's been continued to this life and it has not left him. And so in this life, because of his stubborn actions to repeatedly continue what's been done in the previous life, he is able to continue it. He should be able to stop. If in your heart, if you try to reborn as a man and try to study hard, but you should not hope to be reborn as a man but just wear skirts and wear makeup. So there are ways. Follow these procedures of the practice, and it's important to accumulate the positive virtues. So while changing your heart, Buddha said, just as important as Buddhism, it is very important to control your heart. And there is no other religion that has given us precise information in our methods to change our heart. It's been done really well. So even the psychologists, they also say that if you have a mental sickness once, then it's very difficult to cure it. You have to eat medication. You have to eat medicine the whole life. And when Dr. Xiang Li came to Dharamshala, he said, if I knew Buddhism before, then maybe I wouldn't have gone through so much difficulty. Now I'm already 70 years old. Now I know what are the methods to cure, but why did I do so? And because of the meditation, he even followed us to Dharamshala. So there is no other religion which controls or which has given a detailed description of our heart. Although they have given explanations or description of the heart, they categorize the heart into 5 different categories, and they also describe it in many different ways, and they have given us the methods how to cure this in this way and how to cure the hurt in the other way. They're given everything. And that's why in America, psychologists they study spiritualism. But we sit here and we study if the disease of his heart started from his heart. Leaving such an important subject in our temples and monasteries, we argue that, oh, it's because of your ancestor problems. In Korea, they accept those problems of religious problems of that of ancestors in a more serious way than anything else. There's so many people who come to me with the same problem. Venerable Jinok, I went somewhere and they told me it was my ancestor who suffered from a bad death, and due to that I am going through this suffering. But I'm sure most of you who are here, you also have those kind of problems. A lot of people, there will be very bad death, being killed by tigers or even being killed by some cows on a sunny morning. They talk about this depressive death. They are not looking at it from the point of view of the cause and the effect, but instead they talk about it in other areas. That is almost like asking something without expecting the same answer. Buddha has taught you what to do and what are the means that can make you disappear, make your agony disappear. But in Korea, we don't take things in this way. This person, Buddha, from what I see, he's really good at everything and he's a perfectionist. And so if you make any mistake, then I'm sure you can never escape from it. Because his tolerance was also so great, he could also ask, why didn't you come here during your previous life and more life previous to that? If he asks you the question, there's nothing that you can say. So finally, you can strengthen the general compassion that's for the most common sentient beings who are going through suffering, and also you can also change it to more clear and also innocent status. If you know, then if you understand, then most of the feelings that you have now are a little selfish. I don't think it is something that is great or it lies in somewhere grand that you walk on the street and you can prostrate. There was a lady with white hair, no makeup, and she was working hard. And when I asked, what are you doing? She said, she's trying to pay fees for 2 students, and so she doesn't, and so she fears it's a little waste for her to wear makeup and also dye her hair. And when I listened to her, I wanted to prostrate to her in the middle of the street. It should be done so. The sense of compassion, it should get strengthened and it should grow. If you do not let it grow, then the sense of compassion, it doesn't grow. Because it's our habit, and also because it has become our habit, it shrinks. So if you sleep at home, it shrinks a little, and if you go home, it shrinks a little more, and if you listen to your husband next to you, it shrinks a little more.
요만해져가지고 그래가지고 한 달쯤 지나고 나니까 그냥 잊어버린 척.
And after a week, it has become this small.
사람 갈 때는 갔을 때는 그때 봤을 때는 보살님들 다 그럽니다. 아이 우리 내년에 올때 개구.
And after a month or so, you tend to behave in a way that you have forgotten it.
했지.
When we go to Dharamshala, most of you they say, when you go back to Yasu, let's hold a meeting. You have done it.
그런데 그게 서르르르 사그라져가지고 나중에
But I know after a month there will be no one who says that.
갈 때쯤 돼서 한 두세 달 전쯤 돼서 이러면 다른 사람 공부로 가지 그러면.
And then that kind of feeling it disappears. And when it's about time for you to go back again, and when I ask you are going to Dharamshala to study, because I say you answer, oh, if it's possible. I will try to make time. I put efforts, do my best. I'll try my best. And in this way, about 6 different stages are made. And the different stages, if someone makes a different conditions for you or make excuses for you not to go there,
자비심이란 마음은 촘촘한 이영자 보살님 그거 있지
and your desire to study or the condition to study, it disappears, it slips through your hand. The sense of compassion,
그러니까 뭐 하여튼 뭐 고기 조그마한 새끼들 보면 다 걸려.
how is the net that is used to catch the fish? It is very detailed. So even the small babies, you can catch all of them. And our president Nomuyan, he banned the net in order to protect the baby fish. But the sense of compassion, the net for it, it should be very tight, so that nothing can escape from it. So the sense of bodhisattva and sense of compassion, they should be strengthened and they should grow in your everyday life. And those people who suffer and those people who face difficulty, just because your selfishness is a little stronger, or if you look at someone who lives in a better way than you, just because your selfishness is great, you tend to forget. And then you tend to think it's me who deserves the compassion of other people. But even them, they go through a great suffering on their own. And because our sense of compassion is weak, what do? That we only if we see someone who goes through great suffering, then only our hearts moves by a little. If you see someone who goes through great suffering. But a lot of poor people, a lot of foolish people, even after looking at them, they tend to say they're lazy. That's why they're not able to eat their food well. Some of the writers, they also claim that the person went through a diet like a weight loss. But if you know those people who doesn't have it, they have nothing to lose weight too. You should be under condition that when you see someone who goes through great suffering, you'll be able to shed tears. If not, then it is all a lie.
내일 우리 집 제사인데 뭐 그 집에 죽은 집에 안 간다. 그거는 귀신에 걸린 사람.
For example, when you see someone who is dead,
또 두려움에 걸린 사람.
if you say tomorrow is the day of our offering at our home, that's why I'm not able to participate there in the funeral, then you're making a ghost on your own in your own house. Where are the two absentees today?
혼자 오셨어요. 네? 처음 말이지. 어디 소동에 사시오?
With whom did you come? Did you come alone?
그래요.
You come here for the first time.
들어가니까 복잡하죠. 네? 좋다는 얘기는 좀 성근이 있다는 얘기. 지금 와서 앉아지려니까 스님이 보고 있어 나가지도 못하고.
It's a little complicated to hear when you come here for the first time.
그래? 내가
Because you came here and you sat here, you're not able to leave because I'm looking at you.
그래서
Oh, maybe I wanted to leave.
점점 키워 나가지 않으면 그거는 커지질 않아요. 그냥 냅두면 그냥 우리가
So,
오랫동안 해왔던 의미
the sense of compassion and the sense of bodhisattva, if you do not strengthen them, then they do not grow.
정진을 지금 안 하고 있다. 그건 퇴보라.
The karma that we went through, or we grew over the time, they are being repeated. So if you do not practice and if you do not meditate, then that's like a regression back to the past.
뒤로 물러나는 거란 말이야.
Not going forward, it's going backwards.
본문 열심히 듣고 그러면
As I said, not going forward, it's going backwards.
기도하고 진짜 그렇게 되지. 아주 이기적인 마음에서
That's why you have to pray hard and you have to listen well to the teachings. Then your heart will gradually change.
착각 혼자는
And from the very selfish heart, it will change to selfless heart, and your sense of compassion will also grow. The compassion that we feel right now, it is mostly together with the obsession. But this compassion together with the obsession becomes the basis of the real compassion that will be formed later.
그런 게 좀 좋아. 만약에 그거 해도 목사도 안 돼. 그래서
Since it is not possible for you to have the great sense of compassion, so we tell you that it becomes your luck. And if we tell you that it is part of your luck, if you act in this way, then you feel a little happiness.
원동력이
And you're not in the condition to be able to accept any act of yours, even if it does not become your luck.
지금
And a lot of politicians, they also go around
뭐 그냥 뭐 마음이야 순수했겠지. 그러나 우리가 볼 때는 내가 지지르니까 지지르게 보여.
and even those politicians, when they just accept that they are lost,
지사 때가
although it becomes a basis for them for your next election, they still accept it.
지 능력 있을 때 좀 잘해 주지 그죠? 그러나 이제
What's wrong in going to small universities? You can go to small universities if you give them a little more fun. And when you have the talent and ability, you should give them a little more fun.
또 이게
But
중심으로 돌아가 버리니까 거기서 정진을 하면서 그 마음이 점점 순화되도록 보리심과 자비심을
But at the time being, because you have the attachment and because there's something that you wish, you try to do that.
순수해지질 않아.
But if you just leave it so, it becomes a greed, and
사람들의 고통을 완화할 수 있는 자비심도
in the
동시에
process,
이룰 수 있습니다.
you try to strengthen the sense of bodhisattva and sense of compassion. If you do not do so,
연관이 하나도
then you do not
사람도
become innocent.
없었던 사람, 지금 인연이 별로 없는 사람도 힘들어하는 모습을 보고서 마음을
Depending on the condition, you can simultaneously grow the compassion for the strangers who are going through the suffering and to lessen their suffering.
6개월에는
And if time goes, then even those who does not have any relation with you,
중요한 일이라고 생각했던 것 중에 하나가
when you see them suffer, you also have this sense of compassion grown for them.
법을 정확하게 모르면 수학을 하면서 공식을 모르는 것과 같은
The reason why I wanted to do the translation of the mantras, the reason why I thought they were important
방법이란 뜻이야. 고통을 해결하는 방법이란 뜻이야. 법이.
is because if we do not have a clear idea of the
근데 지금
teaching,
우리가 한국 부위에서 하고 있는 것은
it's almost like when you are doing maths, you don't know the formula. And if you don't know the formula, then you are not able to solve the problem. The karma itself, it means method. So it is actually a method to solve the suffering. But right now, in Korean Buddhism, what we do is very weak in comparison to what's written. It's very weak, the methods to solve the suffering. It's because maybe we have not listened or we have not studied the teaching in a proper way, or the stages of practice is not being also clearly distinguished. There could be so many different ways, but the very basic reason is because we do not possess the system as clearly or as good as Tibet or other areas. When I went to Sri Lanka, they still possess the system of the Hinayana, which were there 1,300 years back. And for them, it was not important whether they practice it, but by obeying the traditions and also teachings, I was surprised at the fact that they had very peace of mind. They have been doing it for 2,300 years, but we do not have the system right now. And when we look at the reason why we do not have the system, it is also because we are not able to understand the teaching in a proper way, because we still try to understand them from the Chinese letters. A lot of people should be able to have the exposure towards it, and a lot of people should be able to listen to it. And that's why I try to do the translation. And also, especially the Tibetan Buddhism, the language that Buddha spoke at the time, it's a Sanskrit, and those what's written in Sanskrit, they use that to make the Tibetan, and they translated that, and so the contents that was in Sanskrit is still conveyed in the same way. And also, since the teachers are also from the Naranja University, they were able to convey the contents. They have not diverted the contents, but ever since the beginning of the Buddhism, they have translated the same contents that Buddha spoke. And after 2,500 years later, we are trying to look at it. Then only two people. Our life is so. Our living is so. The thing that I was surprised at, the scientific features of Buddhist teaching, even if we put them in a scientific way, we can also see that the formula for the practice has been correct so far, and something that's so precious. the contents that Buddha spoke. We are trying to translate them directly, and if you are able to look at them and study them in a direct way, then I thought that could be very precious. That's what I think. If you are saying, it applies the same for me, but if I was not able to meet such Buddhist teaching and while living one life, it applies the same for me, but while living this life, without meeting these Buddhist doctrines and Buddhist laws, and if you have been living in a place, doing other things and thinking about other things, if you have lived a life in that way, and if you have tried to solve this problem, then it will happen impossible. If we have not met the proper law, then even in such situation or condition, if we have lived a life in that way, that come to temples to pray, if that was the only thing that we have done so far,
그래서 역경이라는 것이 중요하고 그 역경만 중요한 것이 아니라 그것을 갖다 이제
if we have done so, then nothing would have been possible, whether changing your heart or whether accumulating virtues.
전국적으로 다 사실은 해내야 돼요.
So the scriptures are important. It's not only the scriptures that is important, but while studying the scriptures, we should continuously try to teach them and also learn. There is something that we have to do. So when I give it a thought, I sit and I compare it to so many different things, and I don't think I have made so many virtues in my previous life because I don't have so much money. I don't have as much as you have. If I have a lot of money, then I will just give a huge sum of money and I will give it to the scholars and ask them to translate. If I have done that, then a lot of people would have done it. And I don't think I also have the luck of politics. While living in this life, I haven't become a president or Kim Dae-sung, who made the 불국사, he's almost like a prime minister of nowadays, and because he has so much virtues in his previous life, he was able to build the 불국사, and I guess I haven't done so in my previous life. He was able to make the 불국사 and 석고람, and even to nowadays, a lot of people go there to watch the temples. So I don't think I So sometimes I give it a thought, maybe next life I'll try to become a president. But when I look at the presidents acting, then I also give it a thought, maybe president is not very helpful. I don't have the monetary luck, I don't have the luck of the politics, and if I check if I have other lucks, then even the teachings, when I just say mean things and also say things that is a little harsh, I think I'm lucky in this way. Although I say a little ruthless things, you still come to listen.
그래서 이제 보면 신도님들이 이렇게 나와서 이제 그래도 다 이제 그 듣고는 앉아 있지만 그러나 만약에
If I tell you that the ways to harmony is to eat the cow together and have the harmonized version of our life, maybe you feel instant happiness. But in the end, because of the murder that you are committed, you are not able to live a very peaceful and very successful life.
5만 원씩만 내놔도 그냥 되겠다 그 생각인데 그 복도 안 지었어. 야 보니까 지질이가 옛날에 임진왜란 때 이어서 살아가지고 그럴 것 같아. 그래가지고 그 복도 안 지은 것 같은 거. 이 복이 뭔 복이야? 또 이제 그러면 좀 일찍이라도 요 생각을 한 30대 내 가지고.
But sometimes I think if I have about 10,000 people listening to my teachings, just like somewhere in Gyeongsang province, then maybe I will be able to do what I wanted to do to do the translation. But I think I have not made that kind of luck too.
뭔 유병언니도 아니고.
But if I also think I should have thought about it when I was in 30,
여러분이 이제
that is also not true.
지금 여기서 해낸 불사라는 것은 여러분이 내가 그 솔직하게 자부를 하지만도 여러분들께서 해낸 지금까지의 불사만 하더라도 그 삿되지 않고 복지를 해도 여러 사람에게 조금이라도 이익되게 했던 것이
So all of you, while sitting here and the donations that you make,
그러나 이제
I can be proud honestly.
그래 내가 여수에
But the donations that you have made so far is not wrongly used, and
정도만 되면 그만 장경불사는 내가 그냥
and all the things that you have done in order to be beneficial to others. The power of the generosity that you have given so far is not less.
했으면 좋겠다 싶은데 일찍도 아니야.
But after such a big event, when I think about it,
이게 내가 이제 보고서를 이렇게 받아 보니까 말이야. 미국 놈들은 100년 한다고 그러고 영어 번역은 100년 한다고 그러고 내가 지금 100살.
it is very subjective thought. But if I have about 10,000 believers, then maybe the donations could have been made more easily. And even the thought that if I have only started this work a little earlier,
한심만에 그냥 우리 한국 사람 특징이 있잖아요. 컴퓨터 안 나오면 뜨거워. 빨리 안 되면.
but when I study it, when I look at these Americans, when they do the research for 100 years, and even if I try to do it for 100 years, that means I have to live for 100 more years, but that's also not possible. And if I also try to continue this in my next life, that is also very difficult.
복이 그 조금 있는 것은 딱 한 가지 있어. 내가 가만히 보니까 딱
You know, the internet speed that we have right now, we have built so many different mega speed cables, and our internet is so fast as much as our temper.
조금 그 전생에 조금 습이 조금 있는 것 같아. 그래서
I think there's only one thing that I have.
예?
I think I have a little luck of trying to do until it's been done
한글 대장경하고 좀
without giving up.
다시 한글 대장경도 다시 내가
I think there's something that I had in my little habit of mine from the previous life.
요 한글 대장경도 다시 재번역을 하는 쪽으로 해서
So after completing this,
합해 가지고
the important thing should be done, and after that, together with the Korean Tripitaka and this is a saying of maybe 15 to 20 years later. I'll try to do it after those time, and maybe I'll try to translate the Korean Tripitaka once again, and those repeated contents I remove them. And the well-translated version, maybe we will try to give it a contrast between the Chinese version and Korean version and also Tibetan version, and the new translated ones. maybe we could try to accomplish another Korean triplicata.
깜냥을 해볼 때
There's something that brings a great joy, but it's just that I'm a little slow.
해봐야 되잖아, 그죠? 깜냥을 해봐야 돼서
There's no time to think about it once
할
again,
수 있겠냐
and
그
this is
생각을
very
하면서도
urgent, just like
이게
the
전부 다 마음을
diarrhea, having a
먹는 데
diarrhea.
따라 되는 건데
The luck and my power when I try to calculate it, it's up to this much. You have to measure all the time. With this much, will I be able to do it? Although I think about it in that way,
또 밥을 먹다가도 어떻게 되지?
I think everything happens as how you think about it.
그래서 요거 한 10년만
There's something that I think about all the time that does not leave my mind. When I walk around or even when I'm sleeping, I only think about the triplicata, and even when I'm eating, I think about it. That's the only thing that I think. And I think this is something that will be done if I only think about it for 10 years now.
11월 달에 세미나 할 거예요. 세계 학자들 다 불러놓고 역경했던 사람들 또 역경했던 걸 연구했던 사람들 전부 다
You said
불러놓고 한 5명, 6명 이틀간
since one of the ladies said she will not be able to read it because she's so old, but after 3 years we will try to make a copy from November, calling all the scholars from the world. Maybe call 5 to 6 of them and have a little seminar for about 2 days, and then we were able to know what were the problems. And the other one is we will call the Tibetan scholar and also get an idea what has been wrong and what's been right. Classifying them and identifying them, we will be able to do it. And also the dictionary that we make with the letters that will be used as per the translation. These things will be done for 3 years. And after that, we will have the overall plan, and then we can have the great scholars, and we will provide them the translation. It's not like we're building a great house, and although it seems like they're sleeping, they are still awake all night and completing the work. We should be able to provide them and give them support in order for them to be able to accomplish whatever work they are doing. So maybe after 3 to 4 years, we will be able to see the first copy of the translation. And once we gain the speed, then maybe we will be able to copy or work on 7 to 8 copies a year. And then maybe about 300 copies.
번역한 사람들이 번역을 직접 한 번역한 사람들이 있잖아요, 그죠? 학자들이 그 번역을 텍스트를 가지고 직접 이제
if you are able to catch Yu Byung-won and also
우리가 모자라는 부분은 지금 건강성 부분이 모자라거든요.
work on everything. If you are able to live for 10 more years, then you will be able to see the copy. And even the people who had done the translation, there are people who had done the translation, right? And those of them who had done the translation, they will come forward and teach in person. The part that we don't have right now is a part of the Diamond Sutra. And during the time, we will try to invite the scholars and those people who are translating right now. Let's try to provide them the platform for them to be able to learn them, and then maybe we will also be able to do a little better.
기운이
So
없어.
even all of you, a little more, with a little more activity, although it might for you it might seem like something that is not important. If you try your best, and even if it is only until tomorrow that you try your best, it's fine because it's fine. But I don't do that. Like I try until tomorrow, and if I have a little sense of tiredness, I don't just give up, but I will still try my best. So even all of you, please try with your best ability. Even when I'm sleeping, I think of it. And the thought how
연이어 들잖아요. 그게 이제
and the thought that something as precious as this, will I be able to complete it? I'm really grateful. But if you look at it on the other side, someone who is as unlucky as I am, since I'm in charge of this, it's a little difficult. That's also something that I think. No, like 현장 in olden time, because you're so lucky. After he became a monk, the king was a great sponsor of his. So, and when the king feels bored from time to time, he calls Venerable Hyunjang and asks him to give him a little teaching. And since Hyunjang felt the need for studying, so he said he will go to India to do a little practice. But he said no, what will he do without Hyunjang? So he held him. So Hyunjang ran away in the middle of the night in order to study. So after Hyunjang left,
옆에서 구하라고 보냈어요. 보낸 사람도 많이 죽고 그랬지만 보냈어요. 그리고 갔다
the king did not try to hold him, but the king gave an order saying that wherever Hyunjang passes, try to give him whatever he wants and whatever he needs. So he had all the great support from the king, and also the fact that he was able to come back alive was due to the king. He sent a lot of bodyguards, a lot of supporters for him. And so after Hyunjang returned from India, he wanted to listen to his travelogue, and right after he came back, he asked him to give him the history of the India. And then he also told him about the story about his travel to Lumbini. And he also gave them a history of how of the tigers present there, and also the danger that they gave. But because he was very lucky, the great king of China gave him a temple for him to do the translation in the temple, and he gathered a lot of great scholars from all over China, and he also called then only our Wanchek, Venerable Wanchek, he also went. And also he said, do not worry about money or any other problem, but just continue his practice for the translation. If I compare my virtue to Hyunjang, then my virtues are very less. But when I compare to Hyunjang, I think I also have a little stand, because at the time there was no electricity, and there was no cars, and as of now, there is no king to interfere. There are also some parts which I am on a little better stand. So monk who is very unlucky, I'm trying to do this job,
옛날에 이제
and because I'm unlucky, there are so many obstacles.
대보살들이 중생의 이익을 위해서
There will be a lot of great obstacles, and even though there are great obstacles,
죽음도
even if we are not able to surpass them, let's just try to overcome those difficulties.
각오를 하고 할 그런 정도의 것은 아니에요, 그죠?
But in olden time, the great bodhisattvas like Sana Bodhisattva, she tried to overcome her death. She tried to overcome her death for the good of all other sentient beings. With the thought that it's not something that you feel like the danger of death. It's not something like we have a war going on with North Korea, but still, I'm sure that some money, but I'm sure that because our country is still running, I'm sure that a little money which is running around here and there will come into my pocket. And I think this kind of things makes me a little better than Hyunjang.
자비심을 가지고 있지 않다고 하더라도 그것을 개발하고 발전시키기 위해서 최선을 다해야 합니다.
I've spoken about something else which was not related.
보일 수도 있지만 분명히 늘려갈 수 있는 것입니다. 우리 자비심을 얘기할 때 항상
you have to use the compassion that you are inborn with,
일부 사람들은 이런
knowing these conditions well, and also strengthen and also prosper your compassionate heart. So even if you do not possess the inborn compassion, you have to try your best to develop and promote them. Although this kind of compassion might seem meaningless at the time being, but it is definitely something that you can expand. So even Dalai Lama, he says, a lot of Tibetans, they ask Dalai Lama that to a great country like China, how can we be compassionate? Although we have gone through great suffering, why do you still argue for non-violence? A lot of our national people are dying. Dalai Lama says, if Buddha's teachings are true, then as with the cause and the effect law, when things get resolved, they will get resolved too. How can all Chinese people be bad people? Everyone has lives, and there is no one in this world that deserves a meaningless death. I think in this world, the most pure and the funny war right now, until so far, was the Palestine-Lebanon war. Although they tried to shoot them with the stones and the arrows made of rubber, the America shot them with the missiles. They killed thousands of people. There is no authority, and there is no excuse, and there is nothing that could support or explain this behavior. Compassion provides a platform when your heart opens and try to promote this sense of compassion. There are also some people who say that whatever Dalai Lama has been doing so far is meaningless, that you have to give military feedback or you have to react in a military way. But I think what Dalai Lama has been saying and also been doing is very meaningful. In this text, we are trying to explain about how to grow the sense of compassion. Just like they heard of the mother who feels the great suffering when the loving child feels the difficulty, just like that, if you have the sense of hurt or sense of compassion in your heart when all other sentient beings are suffering from their suffering, we call this a great compassion.
원만이란 말은 무슨 말인지 이제 아시겠죠, 그죠?
What is the title there? It is also there in the Thousand Eyes and the Hand Sutra.
이
It can also
자비심이
be compared to this.
애착심이나 애정심을 갖고서 어느 한 대상에, 그러니까 자기 아들이 뭐 아들, 자기 딸이
If
뭐
you
딸,
put the water
자기
into
가족
10
인연
cups,
가까운 사람들에게만 이렇게
then
그
it's just that there are water full of 10 glasses, but if the hurt, even if it goes to 10 people, but the amount of the hurt is 100%, the great compassion. Just like that, the heart can expand in a free way. It does not have a limit, just like other materials.
두루두루한 자비심이 아니죠, 그죠? 그래서 원이라는 것은
Maintaining the equanimity to all sentient beings, we call that hope, and because they don't shrink to each individual.
평등해진 거기에서 그냥 내 마음이 대단히 약한 것이 아니고
It also means that even if we are treating each individual or one individual, it is also expanding the same.
가지고 옆에 컵 10개 있으면 10개에다 다
So having it means you have both equanimity and also the structure.
10분의 1씩밖에 없을 거 아니에요, 그죠?
So
그러나 이 마음의 양은 10개를
So, like Buddha and also Avalokitesvara, they are those who have or who possess everything.
그렇게 마음이 자유롭게 확대될 수가 있어요. 이런 물질처럼 한계가 있는 것이 아니란 말이에요. 그래서 모든 사람에게
That's why
평등성을
it's
모든
not
생명의
the last
평등성을 유지하는
son,
것을
it's the
원이라고.
only son here.
그
So
마음의
when my
자비심이
son feels the
모든
great difficulty,
생명들에게
mother feels the great
나누어졌기 때문에
difficulty,
줄어든 게
and from
아니고
that
한 개개인의
suffering,
갈등은 줄어든 게 아니고
the mother tries her best in order
똑같이 한
to
사람을 대할 때와
make
똑같이
them escape from their suffering. They try everything on their power,
그래서
whether it's money or staying awake in the
원만하게
middle of the night.
갖추었다라는 것은 평등성과 그 다음에 구족성이에요. 평등과 구족을 다
If there's anything that the mother could do, then she would do it.
부처님은 그렇게 갖추신
But the compassion of a bodhisattva or sattvas in samsara,
그렇게 다 갖추신 분들. 그러니까
they do everything that's possible too, just like the mother.
외아들을 여기 막내 아들이 아닙니다.
The
외아들이
sattvas, if they have to die in order to
외아들이 힘들어할
give
때
them what they want
어머니가
or to be compassionate to them, then they choose the death. That is Buddhism.
온갖 힘을 다 쓰잖아요, 그죠? 그러죠? 할 수 있는 모든 것은 자기 능력껏 할 수 있는 모든 것, 뭐 돈이 들어가건 내가 밤잠을 못 자건 무엇이든지 할 수 있는 것이 어머니란 말이에요. 그러면 이제 보살의 자비심은 중생이
Just like
고통스러워
that, to
하는
all
그
sentient
육도윤회의
beings,
고통 속에
everything
있는데 그
in an equal way.
육도윤회의 고통을 갖다 벗어나게 하는데
If you
모든
have
수단과
that
방법을
kind
다
of hurt or kind of feelings for everyone, we
죽음을
call that
선택해서 저
great
중생들이
hurt.
윤회의 고통을 멈출 수 있다면 죽음이라도 선택한다고 말이에요.
There is a great compassionate hurt.
그게 불교라고. 그렇게
Without this practice,
모든 생명체들에게 평등하게 그리고 구족하게 갖추어진
you're not even able to enter into
큰 마음이다. 그래서
the very beginning of Buddhism. It's almost like you're not even able to see the outer skin of watermelon.
크게 자비로운 마음.
This is not something that is inherent in you, but it is something that you should always try to develop and expand. And two, it needs a different and also great practice on your own. If only we have one or two people, and if only one or two people who possess this kind of senses are born in Korea, then Korea wouldn't go through so much suffering. The country would not be going through so much difficulty, and there will be no more cases of no one taking responsibility for any action that has been done.
이 마음은 누가 본래부터 있는 것이 아니고 자꾸 본인이 그걸 확대시키고 하려고는 노력하려고는 부단한 노력이 필요해요. 요렇게 된다 그러면 이런 사람이 한두 사람만이라도 어느 정도 완성된 사람이 한국에 태어나 준다만 하더라도 한국이 이 지경으로 폭력이 난무하고 온통 나라가 시끄럽고 누가 뭘 해도 책임도 안 지고 이런 상황이 벌어지지 않을 것이다.